Question number 2, Amy Adams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance and asks, what reports has he received on the cost of damage from the Canterbury earthquake?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, preliminary advice from the Treasury estimates that the total bill for earthquake damage could be around $4 billion. This figure incorporates the damage to residential buildings and property largely covered by the Earthquake Commission, the damage to commercial buildings largely covered by private insurers, the damage to local government infrastructure, some of which will be covered by insurance carried by local government, and costs and damage to central government assets. I would caution this is still a very early estimate, and as more information becomes available, we'll have a better capacity to focus on the total cost. I must say, though, that the government right now is not focused on getting the total cost right. That may take years perhaps, but focused on restoring people to their homes and their businesses and their jobs and their schools.
Amy Adams.
Supplementary to the Minister. Who will pick up the bill for the damage?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, in the first instance, insurance companies will pick up the large proportion of these costs. The Earthquake Commission has significant reserves, significant enough to cover the larger estimates of their costs, including reinsurance. Private insurers have reassured us that their own reserves and reinsurance arrangements will be adequate. So far, the Earthquake Commission has received 36,000 claims and expect this to rise to around 100,000 claims in coming weeks. And they're receiving a great cooperation from telephone companies, from the ACC and others who have helped to augment the Earthquake Commission's call centre capacity and therefore their ability to take and process claims.
Amy Adams.
To the Minister, what advice has he received on how the earthquake will affect economic growth?
The Honourable Bill English.
Well, Mr Speaker, first of all, any advice on economic growth can't and doesn't capture the costs to individuals of the severe disruption and concern that they have. However, Treasuries advise that the earthquake is likely to lower GDP growth over the next 2 or 3 months. However, they would expect that in the 12 months beyond that, that the earthquake will have a net benefit on GDP. If you can imagine the large amounts of cash that have been held in reserve by insurance companies and the Earthquake Commission will be realised, say, by, for instance, the sale of overseas-owned shares or shares owned overseas, and that money being injected into the Canterbury economy. So we would expect a positive effect over the next 12 months or so.
Amy Adams.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. To the Minister, what are some of the other costs people may face as a result of the earthquake?
The Honourable Bill English.
Mr Speaker, obviously businesses and employees face a loss of potential income because of, for instance, damage to stock held by a business or simply because the workplace is closed. That's why the government has set aside initially $15 million for a wage subsidy for quake-affected businesses and workers. In the first day and a half since the subsidy was announced, Work and Income have received about 342 calls from employers, 36 formal applications, and in fact the first few applications have already been approved, and we would expect this to grow quickly over coming days. I have also spoken to chief executives of the main banks who have confirmed that they will do what they can to accommodate the special needs of their personal and business customers in Canterbury.
Question number 3, the Honourable David